Hi guys, today we're going to be talking a little bit about singular and plural, comparing English and Russian. First of all, I'd like to start over here with the logic that we see in both of our languages in terms of nouns that have two parts. So English and Russian agree almost in all situations here as far as I can see, where we have words like scissors, or in Russian ножницы, trousers, брюки, glasses, очки. So you can see that obviously these nouns have two parts, so that would be very strange if they weren't plural. There is an interesting example that I found with the words gate and gates. In English, if we said gates, we're talking about two moving parts, like say Buckingham Palace, where you'd have two large swinging gates to allow maybe cars to go into the yard. Or you could have a gate, like a simple garden gate. Now in Russian, I think most of the time where you have gates in English, big ones, in Russian you would say varota, which as far as I know it's always plural, you don't have a singular form of that. And gate, like the garden gate, or the one that you might find on a farm, which is just one piece, that's more likely to be kalitka in Russian. So there's that interesting difference there. Moving on over here, these are mistakes that you would expect from Russians in English, purely because in Russian these nouns here can be singular or plural. Or this one data, sorry, this one's just plural in Russian, so you have данные. I don't think you have данный, it has a different meaning. So this one, data, would be plural in Russian. Research would be исследование or исследования. So you could have researches, whereas in English that sounds strange. We wouldn't say that. We would say a piece of research or pieces of research. If you wanted to count them, you would use a noun that you could count like pieces to quantify different types of research. Knowledge is the same, so in Russian it can be plural or singular. In English we don't count it, so it's just a mass of knowledge. So again, we could say pieces of knowledge, but we can't say knowledges, that would be a mistake. Advices, we can't say that in English, so it would have to be, again, a piece of advice or pieces of advice if you want to make it plural. Or we could use, instead of savyati, we could say tips. So the small pieces of advice to get around this problem of not being able to use advice in the plural. Other interesting examples and mistakes that are quite common for Russian people to make would be with using hairs instead of hair. So we don't count individual hairs, there are just too many of them on your head. So we would just refer to it as hair, whereas in Russian you would say volosy, you would use the plural most of the time when you're talking about hair, so that's one to watch out for. So I went to the hairdressers to have my hair cut, not my hairs, right? But you could find an individual hair maybe in your soup, if you were eating your soup, or you find two hairs in there, okay? So maybe if you were counting individual hairs, we could use the plural, but most of the time we tend to generalize hair and perceive that as a mass noun. Persons is another interesting one. This is very formal, right? So that's worth remembering, that when you use persons, you would say something like, persons under the age of 18 are not allowed to enter unless accompanied by an adult, for example, right? It's very formal. So this might be used in some business context, in the context of guidelines, rules, and so on. But usually the plural, the normal plural of the word person is, of course, people. So that's much more usual for us to say people, not persons, in most contexts. Moving over here, we have irregular plurals. These cause problems for us when we're learning Russian, but obviously also for Russian people who are learning English. So simple ones here: men, man, men, right? Woman, women, sheep doesn't change, so you have sheep and then many sheep. Mouse, and it changes to mice. So there's no way around these really, you just have to learn them when you find them. And equally in Russian you have irregular plural on certain nouns. And finally, coming down here, this final interesting example here where you have some groups of people in English can be either singular or plural. This is quite strange probably to a Russian because your nouns don't behave in this way. So if you have something like семья or команда, those would just be singular. Even though there are many people in them, they can't be perceived as both. It's very binary, so it's either singular or it's plural. You're not flexible there in Russia with that category of nouns. So here with English, I could say my family is big, which would mean I have many relatives. So that's my family is big. So we're seeing the group as one united group. But equally, I could use the plural here and say my family are big. And if I say that, the meaning is very different. So you'd be saying that the individual members of your family are fat, they're big, right? So don't make that mistake here. So equally with family, you could say the same about class, like your classmates at school, or a team of football players or whatever kind of team. So again, you can perceive them either in the singular as one group or in the plural as many individuals. So it just depends on the context there. Okay, I think that's it. Don't forget to check out our website. If you like this video, give us some praise, give us some comments, tell us what you think. And I'll see you very soon.